Edward VII, the autopsy that never happened. May 1910. The king is dead. Edward VII, Bertie, the playboy prince turned portly monarch, has finally collapsed after decades of cigars, champagne breakfasts, and scandal. But here's the twist. Unlike his grandfather George III or his mother Victoria, there's no record of an autopsy. None. The doctors kept their findings close to the chest, literally. So today, we're doing the job they never did. Let's drag Edward VII onto the forensic table and imagine what his autopsy would have revealed. The final days. Edward was 68 and his body had been protesting for years. He wheezed through bronchitis, clutched his chest with angina attacks he dismissed as indigestion, and kept puffing away at a daily diet of 20 cigarettes and a dozen cigars. By May 1910, he was visibly bloated, gasping for breath, and so weak he could barely walk. On the 6th of May, after suffering a series of heart attacks, he died in Buckingham Palace. Cause of death? The official line was pneumonia and heart failure. But what would an autopsy have shown? Imagined autopsy report. The following is what Edward VII's doctors might have written if they'd had the courage and the honesty to put it on paper. The lungs. Congested, heavy, filled with fluid. Clear signs of pneumonia, the immediate trigger that ticked him over the edge. Years of smoking had left his lungs scarred, blackened, and prone to infection. The heart. Massively enlarged, arteries stiff with atherosclerosis. The coronary arteries likely 80 to 90% blocked. He had been living on borrowed time for years. The abdomen. Thick layers of fat, evidence of obesity. Fatty deposits crowding around the liver, pancreas and kidneys. The royal organs practically drowning in butter and brandy. The kidneys. Showing strain, possibly early renal failure. Another ticking bomb. The brain. Probably normal. No evidence suggests stroke or dementia. His decline was cardiac, not neurological. In other words, the king's body would have told the story everyone already suspected. Indulgence, excess, and years of medical denial. What they chose not to do. So why no autopsy? Because everyone already knew what killed him. The doctors didn't need to split him open to see the damage. And the family had no interest in confirming publicly that the King of England was essentially undone by foie gras, tobacco and gouty overindulgence. His mother Victoria got a discreet peek under the hood. His grandfather George III got a full dissection. Edward VII? Silence. The modern diagnosis. If Edward VII were alive today, cardiologists would have had a field day. Coronary artery disease severe. Chronic bronchitis from smoking, obesity-related type 2 diabetes very likely, hypertension, final cause of death pneumonia, tipping his already failing heart over the edge. With modern medicine, he'd have been told to quit smoking, lose weight, take statins and swap champagne for sparkling water. Edward would have hated every minute. The final irony. So Edward VII, the King of Excess, left no autopsy record, but his lifestyle wrote the autopsy for him. Every cigar, every mistress, every overstuffed dinner was another scalpel mark waiting to happen, and in the end, the silence of the missing post-mortem says it all. There was no mystery to solve. The king died of being Bertie. So there you have it, Edward VII, the autopsy that never happened. One king, zero scalpel. But a body that still testifies, in bloated heart, scarred lungs and clogged arteries, to a lifetime of unchecked indulgence. That was Past People, Edward VII, the king who didn't need cutting open because he'd already carved his own fate. Prince Alfred, Duke of Edinburgh, the Queen's forgotten son. It is the 30th of July 1900, and Coburg, Germany is in mourning. Prince Alfred, Queen Victoria's second son, known as Affy, is dead at 55. Once the handsome sailor prince, the Duke of Edinburgh, and later Duke of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, Alfred has been quietly wasting away for months. The official cause of death? Throat cancer. But rumours swirled. Some said it was syphilis, others whispered suicide. The truth is buried with him. No royal autopsy was ever published. But tonight we will do what the doctors never revealed. We will lay Alfred on the slab and cut open the secrets of Victoria's most shadowy son. The last days. Alfred's decline was obvious to those around him. He was thin, sallow, coughing blood, his voice hoarse, his throat raw. Food became painful to swallow. Alcohol, once a comfort, burned his diseased gullet. He was bedridden for weeks, drifting in and out of fever. Victoria was told little. The family kept the details quiet. By July 1900, Alfred was too weak to stand. He died in his German duchy, far from the empire he once served at sea. The external examination. On the table lies a tall man wasted to the bone. His face is gaunt, skin stretched tight, lips cracked. His neck shows swelling and discoloration, the tumour distorting the contours of his throat. The body is emaciated, muscles wasted, ribs sharp. Fingers stained with nicotine. He was a lifelong smoker. He looks like a man consumed, not by fire or war, but by disease gnawing from within. Opening the chest and neck. The chest cavity is opened. The lungs are congested, speckled with black deposits, decades of tobacco smoke etched into the tissue. But the true horror lies higher. The throat is opened. The larynx and pharynx are a mass of ulcerated tumour, grey-white and ragged. The cancer has invaded deep, eroding the airway, narrowing the passage until every breath was a battle. The tumour has spread to nearby lymph nodes, which bulge like hard marbles in the neck. This is advanced throat cancer, almost certainly squamous cell carcinoma, the classic disease of heavy smokers and drinkers. The lungs show secondary infection, pneumonia from aspirated food and pus. He choked on his own disease. Into the abdomen. The liver is enlarged and mottled, showing signs of fatty change, possibly worsened by alcohol. The stomach is inflamed, irritated from malnutrition and constant vomiting. The kidneys show moderate scarring, age and lifestyle, nothing dramatic. But the abdomen tells the story of starvation. He had barely eaten in weeks. The brain. The skull is opened. The brain is pale but structurally intact. No strokes, no tumours. Alfred's death was not neurological. His agony was in the throat, not the mind. Modern diagnosis. If written up today, it would read, cause of death, metastatic squamous cell carcinoma of the throat. Contributing conditions, chronic tobacco use, malnutrition and wasting, secondary pneumonia, possible alcohol overuse. The theories. Whispers of syphilis? Highly unlikely. His decline was classic the throat cancer. The sores, the wasting, the hoarseness, all textbook. Suicide? Rumoured but unnecessary. The disease was more than capable of killing him. What the autopsy tells us is simple. Affy died a smoker's death, his throat devoured by cancer until he suffocated in his own body. The final irony. Alfred had once been the dashing sailor prince, touring the empire, entertaining queens, marrying a Romanov. But his end was hidden, quiet, undignified. The son of Queen Victoria, who adored control and ceremony, died choking, starved and silenced, his voice gone long before his breath. So there lies Prince Alfred, Duke of Edinburgh, on the mortuary slab. A sailor, a duke, and a smoker. His throat torn apart by cancer, his lungs scarred, his body wasted. That was past, people. Prince Alfred. One prince, one devoured throat. Maximum silence. Prince Arthur, the soldier prince on the slab. It is the 16th of January 1942, and a quiet house in Bagshot Park, Surrey, falls still. Prince Arthur, Duke of Connaught, Queen Victoria's third son, is dead at 91. Arthur was the soldier prince, the one who wore uniform almost his entire life. He fought, he governed, he saluted his way through the reigns of 3 monarchs. And now, in the middle of the Second World War, the old general has finally gone to his rest. No autopsy was recorded. By this point, what would have been the point? He had outlived nearly everyone. But if we put Arthur on the slab today, his body would tell the tale of a soldier who lasted longer than any of his brothers, yet could not escape time itself. The last days. Arthur had been frail for years. By his late 80s, he was wheelchair-bound, suffering from heart problems and repeated infections. His memory faltered, his body was swollen with fluid. He was one of the oldest royals in Europe, but age had stripped him of strength. In January 1942, he caught a chest infection. His heart, already weak, could not cope. Within days, he was gone. The external examination. On the mortuary table lies a very old man. The skin is thin, papery, mottled with bruises. His frame is shrunken, muscles wasted, yet his belly and ankles are swollen, fluid pooling from a failing heart. His face is gaunt, lips tinged blue, hands curled in on themselves. The stench of old age, ammonia, infection, decay, clings faintly to him. Opening the chest. The chest is opened, the heart is large, heavy, with walls thickened and arteries stiff as pipes. This is advanced atherosclerosis. The coronary arteries are narrowed to threads. Arthur had been living with chronic heart failure for years. The lungs are heavy and sodden, fluid pouring out when cut. Pneumonia had flooded them, the infection that finished him. Old scarring suggests he'd had repeated chest infections before, the curse of the elderly. His ribs are thin and brittle, bones weakened by age. Into the abdomen. The abdomen shows the slow rot of time. The liver is congested from years of poor circulation. The kidneys are small, scarred, their surfaces granular. Classic chronic kidney disease worsened by hypertension. They had been failing him for years, causing the swelling in his legs and belly. The intestines are pale and atrophied. The stomach is small, almost empty. In his final days he had little appetite left. The brain. The skull is opened, the brain is shrunken, its surface furrowed deeper than in youth. The arteries are narrow, brittle, several with signs of old clots. Arthur had likely suffered minor strokes, explaining confusion and weakness in his final years. But there is no single catastrophic bleed. His mind faded because his vessels hardened, not because of a single blow. Modern diagnosis. If a coroner wrote this today, it would read, primary cause of death, pneumonia on a background of congestive heart failure. Contributing conditions. Advanced coronary artery disease, hypertension, chronic kidney disease, multiple minor strokes, general frailty of old age. Arthur's death was not dramatic. It was the slow collapse of an elderly body. The final irony. Arthur was the soldier prince. He survived campaigns, commanded armies, travelled the empire. He buried brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces. He outlived the Victorian age, the Edwardian glitter, and even saw the world at war again in 1939. But in the end, he was felled not by cannon or musket, not by intrigue or poison, but by the quiet enemy that comes for almost everyone, pneumonia, the old man's friend. So there lies Prince Arthur, Duke of Connaught, on the mortuary slab. A soldier's body worn down by 90 years, a heart too heavy, lungs too sodden, kidneys too scarred. That was past, people. Prince Arthur. One prince, one long life, maximum time, minimum mercy. Prince Leopold, the fragile prince on the slab. It is 28th March 1884, and the Villa Nevada in Cannes, France, has fallen into chaos. Prince Leopold, Duke of Albany, Queen Victoria's youngest son and her cleverest child, is dead at only 30 years old. Unlike his burly brothers, Leopold was frail from birth. He suffered constant pain, frequent illnesses, and the most dangerous inheritance of all, haemophilia, the royal disease that would haunt his descendants for generations. The official cause of death? A fall followed by a brain hemorrhage. But what if we laid him on the mortuary slab? What would his fragile body reveal about the disease that destroyed him? The last days. Leopold had been plagued by illness all his life. He suffered crippling joint pain, swelling, and repeated bleeding episodes. Even the smallest knock could cause agony. His mother worried constantly, though she also kept him on a short leash, protective yet controlling. In March 1884, Leopold was in Cannes to escape the English winter. He had been in good spirits, writing letters and enjoying the sun. But then, disaster. He slipped and fell, striking his head. For most people, it would have been nothing. For Leopold, it was fatal. By morning, he was dead. The external examination. On the table lies a thin young man, pale and delicate. His joints are swollen and deformed, especially the knees and ankles. They are stiff, enlarged and scarred, the result of years of internal bleeding. His skin is marked with bruises, old and new, scattered across the body. Even gentle handling leaves discoloration. His face is still, lips pale, eyes sunken. There are no external wounds, just the faint swelling at the temple where he fell. Opening the skull. The skull is carefully opened. The brain tells the story at once. Blood pours from beneath the membranes, pooling in a vast intracranial hemorrhage. This is the clot that killed him, checking the pressure, building, crushing the brain, silencing him in hours. The vessels inside are fragile, thinned by the absence of clotting factors. Even a minor injury has caused catastrophic bleeding. Opening the chest. The chest is opened. The heart is relatively normal, though pale. The lungs show patches of old infection. Pneumonia he had survived before. His immune system had been battered by years of illness. His ribs are thin, slightly fragile. His whole frame less robust than his brother's. Into the abdomen. The abdomen shows signs of his long struggle with haemophilia. The liver is enlarged, showing the strain of repeated transfusions and treatments, such as they were in the 19th century. The spleen is swollen, a mark of chronic immune stress. The joints, when cut, are filled with old blood, scar tissue and degeneration. This is haemophilic arthropathy, joints destroyed from the inside out by repeated bleeding. Modern diagnosis. If a coroner wrote the report today, it would read, primary cause of death, intracranial hemorrhage following minor trauma. Contributing conditions, severe haemophilia B, clotting factor IX deficiency, the form later traced in the royal family. Chronic haemophilic arthropathy, recurrent infections, general frailty. In plain English, Leopold died because his blood could not clot. His entire life was a countdown to disaster, and one slip was enough to end it. The theories. Poison? Suicide? Leopold's death was no conspiracy. It was written into his blood from the moment he was born. His haemophilia was the genetic curse that Queen Victoria carried, and which she passed on to her descendants across Europe. In him, it struck with merciless clarity. The final irony. Leopold was the most intellectual of Victoria's sons, the one with the greatest mind. She called him her darling boy, but wrapped him in cotton wool, knowing he was fragile. He longed for freedom, for independence, for a family of his own. He married, fathered a daughter, and seemed to have a future. But haemophilia allowed no happy ending. One fall, one bleed, and the cleverest prince was gone. So there lies Prince Leopold on the mortuary slab, a young man destroyed not by gluttony or age, but by a single genetic flaw, a brain drowned in blood, Joints ruined, skin marked with bruises that never healed. That was past people. Prince Leopold. One prince, one fatal fall. Maximum tragedy written in blood.